Hello, my name is Sarah Wells, and for my project manager interview, I interviewed one of my friends, Lauren Seplica. Lauren and I met in undergrad at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. She was a year younger than me, and we joined our sorority ADPi at the same time, and we're both psychology majors. We spent a lot of time together, and she's been one of my best friends ever since, so she was an easy pick for this interview. She has 2 bachelor's degrees, one in psychology and one in business from Drake University, and she graduated her undergrad in May of 2018. She immediately went on to grad school to earn her MBA from Drake as well, and graduated with that in December of 2019. So she currently works for the National Pork Board, which is also located in Des Moines, Iowa. She started there as an intern the summer between undergrad and grad school, so the summer of 2018, and has been working there ever since. They loved her so much that they decided to keep her on as an intern throughout her whole graduate career, and then hired her on, creating a position for her as the manager of project strategy when she graduated. The National Pork Board is a government agency that oversees the pork checkoff and educates both producers and consumers of pork on best practices, research, recipes, cooking techniques, and more. So for our interview, I conducted it over a Zoom call the evening of Tuesday, March 9th, and it lasted about 40 minutes. We went over the 10 required questions, and then I had 3 additional questions as well. So we will talk about those next. There were several issues in project management that were brought to light in our interview, such as documenting scope, ethical dilemmas, and mitigating project risks. The National Pork Board takes an interesting take on the PMI's principles for scope. So they have developed what she called a light approach to the PMI principles, which just consists of a simple project one sheet that compiles everything from the project charter into one sheet of paper. And then at the beginning of the project, she administers the sheet to her team members and stakeholders to get their perspectives on risks, schedule, budget, scope, and more. And this is where the scope is documented in her organization and is constantly reevaluated with team members when things are getting off track. As far as ethical dilemmas, they are a government entity, so there are pretty strict protocols to remain in business, which is kind of what they want. So she doesn't really have too many ethical issues in that regard. As far as mitigating project risks, she has learned that having just an open and honest conversation with their team members and stakeholders about the risk, ensuring that they are aware of how this could affect the project or the organization, allowing them to see the full picture, is kind of the best way she's figured out how to mitigate these risks. She's also lucky enough to be able to bounce ideas off her boss. So there are also a couple challenges she has faced as a project manager, such as communication and managing multiple projects. So learning how to communicate best with her team members and stakeholders is something that is hard to learn from a textbook. She has learned a lot on the job. She made an effort to get to know her coworkers and the preferred communication styles. And good communication is key to leading an effective and productive project team. So Lauren is also frequently juggling between 3 and 8 projects at a time. She said the typical amount for project managers is usually about 2 to 3. But since she is the only project manager in her organization of about 75 people, and the projects are typically smaller in scope, it is difficult for her to keep the project straight sometimes. But she relies heavily on her planner and Microsoft Teams to keep everything straight. I also asked her about several other aspects of project management, such as the tools that she uses. The National Pork Board uses Microsoft Teams to manage their projects, but Lauren only requires a few things from her team members to be completed in Teams, such as uploading all their files into the project folder and labeling them appropriately, using OneNote for meeting notes, and ensuring all of their agreed upon action items are in Planner. When asked how long it typically takes Lauren to plan a project, she said it can take anywhere from 1 day to 1 week, depending on the scope and type of the project, which did surprise me. I figured it would be a little longer. Although she did make sure to point out that though she can officially move out of the planning stage into execution, she is constantly monitoring and controlling the project, so she has to reevaluate her plans occasionally. For her formal education, she said her undergrad didn't really prepare her at all to be a project manager, but her experience was quite different in grad school, as she was able to apply what she was learning immediately on the job in her internship with the National Pork Board. She does wish her courses would have focused a little more on learning how to manage people and navigate sticky situations. As far as self-care as a project manager, it is so easy to overwork yourself. One of the things that really stuck with me that Lauren said was that if you are effectively managing a project, you won't actually be the one completing any of the tasks. So making sure to delegate these tasks and assignments is very important. One way for her to reduce her stress is to look at her week ahead and plan her days around her meetings, making sure she's prepared for them, but also not focusing her entire day on that one project. She typically splits her time on projects between mornings and afternoons. One of the pieces of advice she gave was that it is okay if someone says no to your idea, and that it is a lot harder to get to yes than people say it is. A lot of compromise. She also advised to listen to your peers and understand how to choose the best compromise based on suggestions from a diverse group. I loved the lessons learned that she said. Her first one was to build up your confidence and face your fears. At the beginning of her internship, she was so nervous about leading meetings, and she approached her boss about it. And his response was to have her lead all of the meetings in the organization for the projects. So she wasn't too excited about that at the time, but as she got the practice, she got more confident, and she really appreciates that now. The other thing was that feedback is a gift. She said to always seek feedback and stay open-minded about it. So finally, my key takeaways. There are 3 things that really stuck with me about our conversation. The first is that if you are effectively managing your project, you will not be completing any of the tasks. Second, to build up your confidence. The practice makes perfect. And finally, to seek and appreciate feedback. I will keep this advice at the forefront of my thoughts as I progress throughout both school and my career. Overall, I learned that there is not just one right way to manage projects, and that good communication is a very important key to success as a project manager. Thank you.